This is not a scene from a wildlife documentary. For residents of Imenti Meru, these elephants have been frequent visitors. The situation has been further aggravated by the drought, which pushed people deep into forests in search of food, water and sometimes firewood, pitting humans against wildlife. And for a community trying to eke out a living, farming in the area has become more of a lottery than a livelihood.
Tunapanda lakini ndovu inatuharibia mimea na sisi tunaendelea kulima kwa sababu ya lishe.
But the conflict could swing either way, and sometimes the residents make a meal of it. Quite literally, officers from the Kenya Wildlife Service had to come in and subdue a rogue elephant in Imenti 2 weeks ago. Villagers wasted no time in cutting away chunks of meat.
If a human life is threatened, then of course we will take care of the wildlife that is responsible.
Animals within national parks are literally boxed in by humans, people settling in forests and animal migratory corridors. These activities increase competition for resources. All these creatures have to turn for survival to areas outside the national parks where they can find food and water. The KWS puts up electric fences in some areas to separate the wildlife from the communities living in these areas. Now, due to a prolonged dry spell and diminishing resources such as food and water, the relationship between humans and wildlife has more often been a conflict rather than a coexistence. This Subuiga underpass, currently under construction, will facilitate the migration of elephants from the Mount Kenya forest into the Lewa and the larger Isiolo area. Thus, the elephants won't have to use the highway and come into contact with people and vehicles. But there are increased calls for more sustainable measures to reduce the conflict, such as implementation of the Wildlife Act and the land policy, which will ensure that people do not buy land and settle in wildlife protected areas and along migratory corridors. And with the El Nino rains already here, the water can be harvested. This will reduce confrontation around water points, at least for now. The human population can also benefit from the presence of animals. Conservationists argue that if communities around national parks and game reserves benefited from wildlife resources, there will be less conflict between humans and wildlife. Sheila Sendeyo for Sunday Live.